Alrighty, so you ready for your first question?
Yeah.
All right, so my first question to you, Gavin, is where were you born? What did your childhood look like? And what was your home dynamic and upbringing like?
So I was born in Germany, Landstuhl to be more specifically. My parents were military. I was born on the Air Force base they got out there, and that's a good description of how my life and childhood went. Just moving base to base, never really sitting in one place for too long.
So, like, what was the moving feeling? Or, like, I never experienced, like, that military household feeling. Like, I never, like, moved around.
Yeah.
Uh, so, like, just, like, a little insight. Like, what's that like?
Well, I'd say moving from Germany to the States, I didn't have a big issue with. It wasn't really. I didn't had made any friends whenever I was in Germany.
Yeah.
The biggest one that crushed my heart was probably moving from Florida to Texas, which was where I graduated. I graduated in Florida.
Yeah.
Spent a whole 7 years there, and yeah, that was honestly the place I called home for a very long time, and I still kind of do.
Huh. So, if, like, you would move back, you would. Or if you had the opportunity to, you would.
I'd say so.
Man, so let's I guess move on to like the more juicier parts of this little interview. You were a licensed paramedic full time.
EMT to be more specific, but yeah.
So like, what's the difference between EMT and paramedic?
So, an emergency medical technician, you're given life-saving. You're doing life-saving techniques.
Yeah.
Now, the more licenses you get, the more life-saving techniques you learn. See, as an EMT, if you're having a heart attack, there's not a whole lot I can do when it comes to reading 12 leads and trying to figure out which medicine to give you.
Yeah.
My specialty is more on, trying to patch up people who are bleeding, getting triage taken care of. The only medications I can administer are oxygen, baby aspirin, if my paramedic allows me to.
Yeah.
And once you get further adept, eventually you're able to hook in IV lines for your paramedic. It's all with the description of the paramedic. See, that's their rules that you have to follow when you're an EMT. Some paramedics are wanting you to learn a lot. They'll get you to do almost everything that you can get away with legally. Besides that, you're still very able to help people in need.
Huh. So, I guess that brings me to the next question after that, to follow up, which was, I guess, what inspired you to become an EMT in the first place? Was there any like other jobs within the field of work that you looked into, such as like law enforcement or firefighting? Any other like first responding jobs?
Hand soap? I don't remember where it is.
Persuade, change, and influence, huh?
I didn't.
No leads on Perico's 20?
We're still looking, but we don't even know what it looks like. Forage for intel.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'll let you know if we can narrow down the location of the radio station.
What was the question again?
Yeah. So, the next question was, what inspired you to become an EMT? Was there any other jobs within the field of work that you looked into, like law enforcement or firefighting, or any other like first responding jobs?
Well, before I was an EMT, I was really hoping to join the Army. But COVID happened, and, well, you know how that is. I ended up getting placed on some very mild antidepressants because I didn't like being lonely.
Yeah.
just being away from my friends during COVID just kind of geeked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, like what made me get into the field was during high school I was in JRTC, and I love sticking out. And one of the things I did was I always had a med kit with me. Eventually I got the title as the medic in JRTC, which it wasn't an actual official title, but even my chief was calling me medic by the end of the 3 years that I put in. And so my senior year came around. I was about to do my 4th year as JRTC. I was about to get promoted to a security detail on the JRTC team, like the staff. But I had the opportunity to go to EMT school at the same time. And so in order to do that, I had to drop JRTC, but I'm glad I did it. It's probably one of the best decisions I made. I was the only person in my high school to graduate with being a national registered EMT. So right out the get-go, I have this EMT certification, and I'm moving to Texas. And so as soon as I move to Texas, I get my license as soon as I can and get a job.
So
I always liked helping people.
yeah. Yeah.
You know, what's funny is people made fun of me for being the quote-unquote medic. But
Really?
one day, somebody scraped themselves really bad during PT. And it's through small actions like that, like, hey, guess what? I have a first aid kit.
Yeah.
Just helping out in the least expected time. That's what I was there for.
So, like, okay, you got the certification, you graduated, you moved to Texas, you applied for the job.
Yeah.
You got the job. So, what was that initial experience of, like, being a EMT like?
So I started out part-time. Did not take very long for them to put me on full-time. I think at first I was really fucking excited. I was really excited to start this job. I was willing to learn, and my those around me saw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was super ready to learn, and while I was wanting to get out there fucking super quick, you know.
Yeah.
During my training process, they were really happy to have me. They were. I was the youngest one there, by a long shot. I mean, the youngest person was like 22 years old, and she'd been doing it for like a year at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I first started out.
So, what was the most interesting call you say you, like, had to respond to?
So,
Like, the most interesting, like, not even, like, the most traumatic, like, maybe, like, just the most interesting. Any off the top of your head, or?
there's well, that's the thing, Danny, is when you're an EMT, man, some calls are very interesting, and so it's kind of hard making up my mind which one is the most interesting.
Yeah. Because you're dealing with all sorts of people with different backgrounds and coming from all sorts of walks of life.
Exactly. You know, I do have one that I'd like to mention.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the most interesting, but it's the one that popped up in my head when you asked that question. And I think I was 4 months in at this time, and this is actually like not too long before I quit. But what happened is me and my partner. My partner's name is going to be Kay for this example.
Uh-huh.
Kay and I get a call, and around, I want to say 10 p.m. Yeah, I want to say 10 p.m. And it was a call for children being in a car accident.
Oh.
And so, I had never dealt with a child death. In fact,
That tango's down.
I never had a call where a child died. I was very lucky for that because I don't know how I'd react.
Yeah.
So we drive 20 minutes to get on scene. And on the way over there, I'm looking over at my partner. I'm like, man, I'm really hoping these aren't some... I really hope there aren't dead kids. He looks at me and he's all like... This was a learning experience for me because he looked at me straight up. He was all like, listen, man, if they are, you have to do it. There's no whining about it. Like, you got to get the job done because if not you, then who else? You're gonna wait another 20 minutes for another team to get by there?
Yeah.
Which yeah, I completely understood.
Yeah.
So this is the interesting part. When you arrive on scene, these are not kids. These are 3 high schoolers who just got drunk one night, this night of all, and crashed into a tree. And they were
So,
just
like-
there. They didn't want us. They weren't even hurt that bad. But that goes to show you just how a call can seem as one thing, but it can be completely more than you expect.
Yeah. So,
Or
like,
less.
walk me through
Completely
that.
less
like,
than you expect.
Yeah. It's like they just got drunk and just drove their car. What was like the procedure you would have to take for something like that?
So, the procedure that we take is, first of all, fire department and police department are always going to show up before we do. Because there's just so much more of them.
Yeah. So like y'all are waiting around the corner waiting for them to clear y'all to come in?
Yeah, we always try to get scene safety. More so whenever it's a violent call. Say one person hurt another person.
Yeah.
Which there's been a couple of those. I would say after scene is cleared, that's when you get on scene. You make sure everything's good. You want to get vital signs pretty much as soon as you get there.
Yeah.
See how they're breathing. What's their skin looking like? Are they freaking out? Are they breathing hard? Just a lot you can gather from a first impression. And eventually you ask them, hey, do you want to go to the hospital? And some people will be having a heart attack and they'll straight up say, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. Despite being told that they have a heart attack 3 times. It's just one of those things. Some people don't like going to the hospital, or they don't have insurance, something like that. But if they say no, you have to get their signed documentation that, these people do not want to go to the hospital. And you always have to get a witness. Always get a witness. Because if not, that shit will come to bite you in the ass one day.
Yeah. Because they could easily turn around and sue the company or department.
Yeah, like saying, oh no, I wanted to go to the hospital, but they didn't let me. It's very easy to, well, I wouldn't say it's very easy, but people do get money a lot from first responders because of poor documentation alone.
Yeah.
If people actually paid attention to what they were writing, there wouldn't be that many issues. Luckily, I was a pretty good writer. I always had, well, I like to believe that I always had good writing on all of my, not patient history statements, PCRs, patient care reports. I always like to think I have good documentation on those. But yeah.
So, you mentioned a patient care report. Is that similar to like what a police officer would fill out, like a police report?
100%. That's essentially what it is. Yeah.
Because I hear talk of like, you know, like police officers. Like I've always heard that they absolutely hate doing their paperwork. Is that the same way with you guys, or?
I wouldn't say it's as bad as you think it is. For being an EMT, it's not that bad.
Huh.
I killed a civilian. Whoops. Paperwork on that's gonna be a bitch.
That's dark humor if I've ever seen that. Speaking of that, so is that something you like kind of develop after a while? Like I'd imagine.
Absolutely. You have to have a dark sense of humor if you're gonna be an EMT. One of those things where if you don't have it, man, like trying to be a good person, like a goody two shoes, 24/7, it's doesn't seem to work out for a whole lot of people. Specifically me and my crew as well. You're either old and bitter, or you're sour and sweet.
Huh.
Yeah, usually the older people are a bit more bitter just because how long they've been in it for.
Yeah.
But my partner Kay, he was my partner, my paramedic partner once I was full time, and he was a good mentor for me. Did a little shit that I think was fucked up, but all in all, we at first did not care for each other.
Yeah.
At first, we just couldn't see eye to eye on things.
Mm-hmm.
But as time went on, and I proved myself to him, I eventually got his respect.
Oh.
When I first met him, I never thought I'd be joking around with him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He eventually became kind of like that uncle figure to me.
Yeah.
Like that grumpy uncle figure.
Yeah.
Because, you gotta think about it. 12-hour shifts, 4 days a week. Eventually, you're gonna learn how to like somebody, or you're gonna get put on another truck.
Yeah.
Damn, did you see that explosion?
Yeah, I saw that.
The fuck was that?
So, I guess, what I have to ask, following up to that is, was there a point in time where you had second thoughts about being an EMT? Any time within, from point A starting work for them, to point B, which is, I guess when you left?
I wouldn't say second thoughts on being an EMT, because the bullshit that I had to go through, I was willing to put up with, up to a certain point. Now, the job is very stressful.
I'd imagine
For me being the new guy, I was always, I was called Puppy. I was called Pup. And, got some guys right here thinking they hot shit.
Kill confirmed.
I'm looking at a small group of tangos.
So you were called Puppy.
Yeah.
Pretty much just new guy shit.
Yeah, which, that didn't really bother me. At first it was annoying, but I got used to it. I kind of flaunted it.
Got a delivery schedule here. Looks like the cartel's...
There was this one paramedic who I just...
Cargo plane's fueled and ready.
Man, he did some fucked up shit.
Gear,
he did.
All we gotta do is steal the plane. What do you think?
Being a new guy, I had mistakes. I did. And having mistakes is just one thing that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Now, this dude went as far as to call me killer. And I did not like this guy. Like, every time I ran into him at work, always ruined my shift. I'd be going home, fucking... I think I should provide some context.
Yeah. That's,
So, this guy I'm specifically talking about, I'm gonna call him S. He has the truck that I work on during the daytime.
yeah.
Me and Kay work at night. We have the night shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And S is the paramedic on the day shift for my truck. And so sometimes when the day truck's EMT doesn't show up, you get overtime, and you have to work with the daytime paramedic. And that's what I did. I worked a few calls with him, and I was always desperate to like try and prove myself to this guy. I don't know why. I was very soft-hearted, and having someone that was very dick, he was a very dick behavior. I just wanted him to stop, so I tried proving myself to him. But we get this one call with this lady. She fell through the night, and it's raining outside at the time. And so we show up on scene. Oops. We show up on scene, and I mean, this lady, oh my gosh, she was on death's door, it looks like. And so I get the stretcher up into the patio. The firemen are ready to put her on the stretcher, and we have this little rain catching device that we have on top of the stretcher, like on the bed, just to keep it from getting wet.
Yeah.
And I lift it up very quickly. Now this is on me, but in my attempt of grabbing the rain, like it's basically a tarp, in my attempt of grabbing the tarp off the stretcher, I accidentally got the bedding off the stretcher as well, which just caused more time to be wasted in the care of this woman.
Yeah.
And a small mistake like that, usually no one's going to get hurt, right?
Right.
But this guy S, man, he said, one of these days you're going to get someone killed. And ever since then, he always called me killer. And that shit, whenever he did that, and that shit just ruined my whole shift. So I was usually trying to get out of there before he was even on shift, you know?
Ah, God,
Right.
I'm bleeding.
Hey, we got a car now.
Damn, that's gonna hurt in the morning.
So you were always trying to get there before he was on shift.
No, I was trying to get, I was really hoping for that EMT on his shift to get there before he does, so that way I can get out of there before him.
I'll drive.
Right.
But, yeah, just dickheads in the field were the one thing that really stressed me out. I was able to be a robot whenever people were just dying. I was able to turn my emotions off for the most part.
Yeah. So, like, you know, that's funny that you say that, because the next thing that I was actually going to ask you was, how did
It's
you
actually
deal
really
with?
hard to hear.
Well, how did you deal with the situations you witnessed during your shifts?
So I consider it robot mode. People have their different words for it. But I mean, you kind of just develop a switch in your head where nothing's real. Like you pretend like nothing's real. I
Right.
feel like.
You almost like compartmentalize it, if that's the word
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Um,
So
but
like,
at the same time, it's a job, you know. Like you got to get it done, or
yeah,
else these people might die. And
yeah,
when they do die, you gotta try your best to get them back. And as long as you can say you did your best, usually doesn't come back to hurt you. Now if it were a kid and I did my best, I'd probably still be hurt by it, just because, I mean, it's a kid, you know?
right,
Like, I look at a kid and I think, man, I have a younger sibling.
yeah,
What if this was that? What if I had a kid, you know? Like, what if I
yeah,
had a kid and I imagined that kid as my kid? Like, that shit. Oh,
yeah. That was like pretty much what you were afraid of.
yeah.
So I hear a lot of stories. I'm not sure like how often this happens, but like at home, like with like during your off time, did your friends or family like begin to notice anything?
They could tell when I had off days. Just a lot less vocal. But at the same time, it's not just the job that does that. I would say it's working night shift as well.
Yeah,
Because I could not drink. I could not sleep for the life of me. I would try my best to sleep during the daytime, but I would always be woken up by something. Just because, I mean, I'm not a very heavy sleeper.
yeah.
Very
So,
curious on what's up here.
so bringing me to my next question, if you feel comfortable sharing,
Mhm.
what was the most traumatic call that you feel like that you responded to?
So I would say my most traumatic call was probably the one death that actually kind of upset me. Because it was just a series of unfortunate events. What had happened was, me and Kay get a call to a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's a description of what was going on for our car. Whoops.
We got smoke. Looks like a plane might have gone down.
Tango down.
And so this call is 20 minutes away. Like if this guy killed himself, like the job would be done by now, you think, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so we're on the way over there. It's 3 in the morning. And eventually we show up and police are putting up crime scene tape. Despite that, we still got to do our job, you know. We get the stretcher out of the ambulance. We roll it on in there. Fire department helps direct us into where the person was shot. We walk in, and I mean, everything is just thrown around. There's broken beer bottles here and there. You can tell someone had like a drunken rage.
Yeah.
And then there they were, still laying on the floor, face down. Yeah, they were still laying on the floor, face down, snoring. This guy had put a 45 to the back of his mouth and got rid of himself.
No shit.
Yeah. And this guy was still snoring. I don't know how. The brainstem was still intact, so I mean,
He was
I guess
like,
it's possible. But
he was
there
still
just,
alive. Like just.
yeah, you had the death snore, where your body is just trying to keep you alive until, I mean, just a defense mechanism. So we flip him over, and we put him on the stretcher. Because he's breathing, he's technically still alive, so we have to transport.
Right.
Now, before we put him on the stretcher, I was the guy that put the C collar on him, and what the C collar basically is a
Deploying the drone.
it's a mold to fit around your head or your neck. bad. It's a mold to fit around your neck to make sure your spine doesn't move, so that way, if you've fallen and you, say, ruptured a disc, there's little to no risk rolling you over onto a stretcher. And so I put the C collar on him, and I get a trauma bandage, and I start trying to keep this guy's bleeding under control. The back of his skull is, I mean, it's in multiple different fragments, man. Like, I can't even tell where the entry wound is because how many fragments there are. Just kind of trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah.
But I mean, I press on. I get more I get more trauma pads. Like, I think I put down 4. Yeah, I put down 4 trauma pads, and he was still bleeding through. Which, I mean, I should have saw coming, but man, it just surprised me quite a bit because there was so much to absorb blood. But man, but anyway, we put him on the stretcher, and 2 firefighters come along with us. My partner tells me, get up in the front seat, because, I mean, both of these firefighters are paramedics, so my partner Kirk is getting help.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just his first name. It's no big deal. But, yeah, my partner, he's getting help in the back. He tells me to run up in the front and just basically get ready to go when I say so, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting up in the front of the ambulance. I'm getting ready. I am ready. I have it in drive. Like, I mean, it never stopped driving. I never turned the vehicle off. But, I had it in drive. That's what I'm trying to say. And my foot is on the brake, just ready to press the pedal as soon as he says so. Eventually, some time goes by. They're hooking him up, intubating him, the whole 9 yards, trying to keep this guy alive, you know?
Yeah.
So, eventually he gives me the thumbs up. But before that is, I mean, you would be surprised how many people are so nosy at 3 in the morning, dude.
Yeah.
There were at least 12 people standing outside wondering what's going on.
The infamous first responders' pet peeve. That's what I've heard.
It's mostly just because
Target. Watch the background.
it's mostly just because of the situation that it is.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking on, and I can see a woman running back and forth on the phone. And I put 2 and 2 together. This woman is the dude's wife. And then on the curb, going into their house, I also see 2 boys about my age. And I was like, wow, this guy was a father too. I was able to put all that together just looking at the scene.
Yeah.
Not even, no identification needed. And that just kind of messed with me. That messed in my head a lot.
Right.
Because it's like, wow, these guys are the same age as me. Like, how would I feel if my dad killed himself?
Yeah.
I would be distraught just as they are. Like, they were like an emotional blank state. They couldn't even react. Man. I keep my cool, though. I keep my cool, and I drive us to the hospital. Another 20 minutes go by, this dude's still breathing somehow. We transfer patient care to the hospital, and that's when it all kind of really kicked in. Like all the things I had just suppressed, all the feelings and shit.
Yeah.
And so I make my way over to the ambulance bay. I look inside the ambulance, and there's just, I mean, obviously you gotta clean up the trash if it's not your call. I'm looking at the scenery. What the fuck? Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I'm pausing my game so I don't have to hear it. But I get to the back of the ambulance and I'm looking at all this trash, man. I've never seen the ambulance this dirty before, and let alone this bloody.
Yeah.
I had at least like 2 quarts of blood, like all over the place, dripping off the back of the van.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, dude.
That's insane.
I was honestly amazed, man. Like, in a bad way, of course. But this guy managed to bleed pretty much inside the ambulance almost as much as he did on scene. But
Yeah.
man, it was a lot for me to take in at the time, and I avoided cleaning out the ambulance. I did, because I was just not feeling it right there.
Yeah.
I went to go sit down and just smoke a cigarette. I went down, sat down, smoked a cigarette, and another ambulance pulled up to the hospital, wanting to help us out. I mean, we already got the job done by the time they showed up, but when they showed up was when I was starting to smoke my cigarette. And these guys were really cool. These guys were really cool. B and N. I'm gonna call them Brent and I don't know. Brent and N-word, I guess. Nah, but Brent came up to me and he's like, "Hey man, you alright?" And I look up to him sitting on the curb and I'm like, "Ah man, not alright." And that's when like it all came out, man. And man, they really did me a solid that night. They helped me clean out the ambulance, and eventually my partner Kurt got done with his side of the deal and got done talking to the hospital. He came out there and he's like, hey man, like, you did a good job keeping yourself composed, but I think you need to get off the truck for tonight. And so 4 in the morning, and I am going back home because, well, I mean, you shouldn't be emotionally impaired when you drive a vehicle.
Yeah. Especially like one that you're expected to respond to life-saving emergencies to. Exactly.
So luckily we have on-call people in that case, and I feel bad that somebody had to wake up at 4 a.m. for me, but I'm really thankful that they did. They weren't negative about it at all.
It's understandable though, right?
Yeah. People were understanding of me. It's just I never had a call with that much blood before, and family means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So when I saw that family, that just added on to it, you know?
Yeah. Just an emotional like awareness of the situation.
Yeah. I got too aware. Got too attached to the call. That was my issue.
Do you still like, I know this is like kind of like a heavy question to ask, but
yeah, I had PTSD for a little bit. I don't know if that was what you were asking, but I was driving a vehicle. Whenever I was driving a vehicle, when I was waiting for my partner Kurt to tell me to like go, anytime I was at a stoplight with my foot on the brake, my foot would just tap relentlessly. And so every time I did that, it's like I was back there again for a little bit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I drive a lot. I do. And so each time I did it, it got a little easier. Now I don't even think about it anymore. But it did take some time.
So would you say
Oh.
PTSD is like a common like demographic of like the mental health issues within like the first responder community?
I think, yeah, I think quite a few first responders have PTSD for sure. Each trigger being for a different scenario that they were put in.
Yeah.
For me, it was watching all the people being nosy, the mother on the phone walking back and forth frantically, crying, and then those two boys with the blank slate on their face. That was I don't know, that just really depicted how I felt at the time. Was that blank slate?
Yeah. That's understandable.
But hyper exposure to the trigger itself which was me tapping my foot on a brake pedal. I mean, eventually, with all the exposure, it just went away.
Yeah.
I did have therapy for a while after that, though, and I think that helped as well.
Yeah. So, you've had the bad memories. You had went through it up to that point, but from your time of being an EMT, would you like recall any like moments that you're fond of?
You know, there was a moment I was fond of. Not
Let's
one you
hear
would
it.
expect either.
Yeah.
We get a call of a woman overdosing. Like, she's dead, right?
Yeah.
We get on scene, and as soon as we show up, fire department immediately brought her back to life. Gave her Narcan, CPR, the whole 9 yards,
Yeah.
and she was awake again. She thinks that she got some Xanax that was laced with fentanyl, which, I mean, pretty sure she's right. But in the fuck, what we got going on here?
It's a Unidad chopper.
Let's take care of this. Oh shit! Damn, these guys are tearing me up.
Hang on. Let me
Bro, I have ray gun.
let's go ahead and like grab a vehicle and dip.
Thank you.
Yeah, because they're only gonna send more and more.
Yeah. But while we're running, you wanna go more into description of what you were telling me?
Fucking hell.
Yeah. This girl was about my age, and what really my positive outlook on it was sorry.
No, you're good.
My positive outlook on it was this girl complimented my hair despite dying 15 minutes prior. And so that's she was just a very positive person, and I was really happy that they were alive because of how positive they are. It doesn't
It's
happen
one of
a
those
lot.
situations where you need more positive people in the world.
Yeah, man.
And it was just sad to see them in that situation
Exactly.
where they felt the need to like use substances.
Goddamn.
Yeah, let's run backwards.
We can stand our ground. I'm my perimeter. My perimeter is me.
Let's run backwards. There's a car back here. But yeah, that was fondest memory you had?
One of them. One of them.
Here, get in.
I had several. But that was the one that crossed my mind when you said something.
Here, get in real quick, and I'll ask you the next question.
Shit, hop in this bitch. If I can. It's not fucking letting me.
Jesus, man.
I know, man.
We might just have to die. I'm just being honest. Yeah, we're gonna have to die. So
I think that would be a good intermission for a smoke break. What do you say?
I mean, I got another question if you're down. I have
Let's do it.
we have like probably 7 more. But
7 more questions?
Yeah.
I
Just
think.
about.
All right. I'll
What
hold
was?
off on
Well, what? Okay, so say you have kids, right? And they want to become a first responder. Would you support their like decision?
I would. I think there's a lot of learning experiences to be had when it comes to that field. I would just give them a few examples of things they might not be a fan of.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would support them fully.
So let me ask. I didn't touch base with you on this. So what led to like you like getting out of that line of work?
How much mortar fire did you call for?
So it was a combination of several things. They had just rolled out with the vaccines for the COVID, and me personally, I thought that they produced the vaccine way too quickly compared to other viruses. Other viruses beforehand needed at least 3 years before there was a vaccine available, like commercially. And I had a sneaky suspicion that this was not effective. And I mean, I don't want to get into politics and all that during an interview, but I'm very glad I didn't take the vaccine.
Yeah.
But my job was at a point forcing us to take the vaccine, and that happened. This was 2 weeks after that one call that I told you about.
Right.
The guy blowing his brain out. So I had two of these things bothering me. And then I went to Austin, Texas, which was like 4 hours away from where I work, during my time off, and I ended up breaking my arm. And so I got disability for a while. I still wanted to do the job, but because how I broke my arm, I required more time to heal, which sucked. Sucked a lot of dick. But with all 3 things just combining, I ultimately just said, yeah, I quit. That's what happened.
So, like, do you see yourself ever, like, getting back into that line of work? Would you, like, consider, like, other, like, jobs within the field, too? Like, say, like, law enforcement or, you know, firefighting?
I think if I were to, I mean, in the past, I did go to the police academy because I was interested in that. I missed the family kind of aspect that you get from being a first responder.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're spending a lot of time with these people.
Yeah.
And,
sometimes more than even your own family at home.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I did go into the police academy. Thought about doing that. Unfortunately, I failed penal code, so I gotta save another $3,000 if I want to waste it again, which I don't.
And one thing I did mention on a unrelated clip to this video was that you were going to be trying to join the Marines with me.
Yeah.
Would you like consider going into like law enforcement after like that stint of service?
I'd say so. It would definitely help me get a job if I wanted to.
Yeah. So
The one thing is that if I were to get into that field of work again, I would see myself being an alcoholic nowadays. Not gonna lie. Back then I wasn't of the legal age, but and nowadays I think I would have been drinking if I was an EMT.
yeah. So as far as like the mental health aspect of the job goes, like as far as like being a first responder in general, or even like military service members, current and former, like what would you like recommend to them as far as like dealing with their trauma, as like as far as what they see on the day-to-day basis?
Don't keep it inside. Try to find someone that you can vent to, because we all need someone that we can rely on when it comes to leaning on someone. I had someone, but yeah, my high school sweetheart broke up with me like 2 weeks before that headshot wound.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost the person I was leaning on, and so that kind of also went into account of why I think how I think right now when it comes to wanting to drink. I don't recommend drinking. I mean, everyone copes in their own different ways. If it's healthy, go for it. I personally don't think drinking is healthy.
I'm not sure how true it is, but I've heard there's also been like a huge stigma in the military in the field of first responding as well, as far as like keeping your feelings in. And if you do like let your feelings out, you're pretty much shamed for it. Would you say that's like something that actually happens from your experience?
I think if you genuinely need help, you should genuinely reach out.
Yeah.
I mean, some things you can keep inside. Like, say, I mean, I dealt with maybe like 50 dead people. And I can't even remember half of them.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, depending on the situation, like, somebody in rehab just overdosed and their body's already cold. You're just waiting on a doctor to give you the thumbs up to declare the body dead.
Yeah.
Calls like that was my first call, and I had a lot of calls like that. Like, people in nursing homes specifically account for, like, probably half of the dead people I had to deal with.
Yeah. So,
But
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I don't really gotta mention those things, you know.
Yeah.
Usually for something like that, I don't have to talk to someone. It doesn't
Well,
really affect me that well.
I think
bad.
you also touched base on this a little bit previously, as far as like whenever you first like went through the gunshot incident. But I wanna go back to that a little bit. How did you overcome like the trauma that you experienced like as an EMT? Couldn't even just be like that one situation, like like as a whole.
Are you asking me, like, how did I overcome it?
Yeah, like how'd you overcome it?
Well, like I said before, I did have someone to lean on to and vent to. But after she left, I had to rely on my parents to help me out whenever I was going through it. But unfortunately, I was sleeping when they were home, and they were working while I was sleeping, and it was just hard. It was.
I'd imagine. So, what would some advice be as far as like what advice would you give to anyone wanting to become a first responder?
Don't take it too seriously. If I was a first responder nowadays, I wouldn't be nearly as much as a people pleaser as I was back then.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm still gonna get the job done the best I can, but I don't give a fuck if somebody likes me anymore.
Yeah. And, moving forward, like, what do you see yourself, like, what are your goals and aspirations moving forward?
I hope to continue continue to live life with the lessons I learned. Honestly, I'm kind of in that stage right now. I mean, I guess you could call it like limbo.
Yeah.
Kind of in limbo right now because waiting for the Marines to take me in. I'm just kind of thinking to myself like, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah. Man, we went over to 45. We actually made it to 56 minutes on this.
Nice. You had a really good interview, man.
Yeah.
Shit was nice.
Thank you for your time, Gavin.
Thank you, Danny.
That was an awesome interview you gave.
I'm glad.
Is there
I was
anything
happy
else
to-
you want to add before I cut it right here?
Don't give druggies drugs.